So let me see if I can bring Rachel on. It should populate here in a second, and I will select her and see if it'll allow me to add. I'll wait until Facebook connects, showing me who's coming on board. Hey, Morgan. Hey, Diana. So Rachel Beider, I think it's Beider. I think I'm saying that correctly. Beider. She'll correct me when she comes on. She runs a practice in New York City, and we had a conversation about whether she should take out a loan, I think, to open up her third location. There was some conversation on the Massage Entrepreneurs group about it. Yeah, the settings inside, Morgan, will allow that. I'm just going to have Rachel on today instead of switching people in and out. But for some reason, Rachel got a request to join to watch, but not to be on. So we're going to see if it's different whenever she pops up on the screen here. But managing massage therapists and running a private practice to me is a very different business venture, and it's one of the things I wanted to talk about. I talk to a lot of therapists who really that's their goal, their dream is to build to the point where they're working with other massage therapists that they're employing. And I think managing massage therapists and having an active private practice are two completely different businesses. So let me see, Rachel is now watching. And aha. Why is it not allowing me to add you, Rachel? There is no button that allows me to add you. I don't know what's up with your phone. Have you done a Facebook Live previously with your phone? Hey Ben, how you doing? Long time no talk. So you can also look, Rachel, in your settings or whatever's down below the options that give you. Oh, you're on your laptop. Okay, no, it's probably not going to work from your laptop. It's probably going to be from your phone. Have you done one from your laptop before? So yeah, if this, I've never been able to pull it off from my laptop. I don't even know how. It works pretty seamlessly on my phone, so that's what I'm using. I just have a tripod here that I set up. Okay, now let's see here. Well, I will keep trying. We will see what happens. Hey, Oz. Let me give you just a second to settle in, Rachel, and make sure. I tried adding you several times from the notification that popped up on my phone, but I don't want to keep adding them so that there's 5 copies of the same thing. Hey, Dreama, how you doing? So probably what will have to happen, Rachel, if you disconnect and then reconnect, it should allow you to go ahead and request access. And let's see if it works. There. What's the temperature there in Michigan, Dreama?
Yay, we made it work.
Yay!
Oh my
It's
gosh,
not as,
sorry, that was like really
yeah,
intense.
it's not as complicated, but it's like sometimes from like I don't think about people using their laptop. It
Yeah.
always works easier on my phone, and then sometimes like if it's landscape or who's inviting who, that gets confusing.
Yay, it worked. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So I titled the talk "Massage Private Practice" and "Managing Massage Therapists" because
Hmm.
I think they're two distinct things. And the conversation we had in the massage entrepreneurs group, it sounded like someone walked in, which I didn't know you specifically, and it was like, should I take out huge loans to like build my practice? And I'm like, no.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. It's not necessary.
Definitely a different set of challenges you're having. So you were saying that you'd like to talk about how you built your private practice to start.
Yes. Oh, yeah. So I get this question a lot from people. Just to bring it back to present real quick, I have three businesses, all massage studios, three locations, and but I didn't start out that way, obviously. I started out as a solo practitioner with very little money, right out of school, with some debt from school, and I wasn't able to get any kind of loan. I was 24 years old. Banks are not interested in lending to 24-year-olds who already have debt. And it was 2008, which is maybe the worst time of our economic history to start a business. But you couldn't have told me any differently. I just thought, stress is a commodity for our industry. So actually, this is a perfect time to start a private practice.
Yeah.
And originally, I knew that I wanted a private practice, but I just wasn't really sure how to go about it. So I was seeing clients at first out of my living room, which when you live on a fourth floor walk up with two roommates, maybe isn't so ideal. And I thought about schlepping my table to other people's, and I did for a little while, but I'm, 100 pounds soaking wet over here. So I'm not really good for carrying a 40-pound table here and there, especially on the subway. I've done it. I don't recommend it.
Yeah.
And so I realized I had no money to rent a space, but I wanted space to use. So I started looking for businesses in the neighborhood who might be interested in some kind of trade. And originally, I found a physical therapy office and I went in and just asked, like, hey, do you have massage therapy? And they said, actually, no, we don't. And I asked to speak to the owner and we sat down and I said, look, your physical therapy clients are more likely to be coming back regularly if they're getting massage. I will give you 2 days a week for free. I'll do 10 or 15-minute sessions on your patients and I'll take really good notes. And in exchange, let me use the space when you're not using it after hours. And she thought about it. This was like May of 2008. And she said, all right, let's try it for the summer. And I
Yeah.
had about 5 or 10 clients who were really like friends of mine or friends of friends. But I started to see these physical therapy patients. And at the same time, I was also working at a spa in Midtown at like a fancy spa. And I was also working at a chiropractic office. So this was really, I was working like a lot, like maybe 5 or 6 days a week. I don't really think I had a day off exactly. Um, and what happened was these 10 or 15-minute clients who I was seeing at the physical therapy office were like, hey, this is really good. Can I come back and see you for an hour? And I was like, well, yes, you can. And in fact, here is a postcard. It's a little card that says $20 off, new clients only for your first appointment. So every time I would see one of these clients, these patients for free, I would give them this $20 off your first appointment card. And then all of a sudden they started coming in, referring other people. And actually, I started to seek out people in the neighborhood who see a volume of their own private clients. So hairdressers were a really big one because they can see 50 people in a week. And I would trade massage for a haircut. Or a chiropractic office, they sent me a ton of people. Personal trainers are a big favorite of mine because their clients are wealthy enough to afford our services and they're sore and their clients care about their health. So it's kind of like a perfect intersection. So basically, I realized if I'm going to start, spending 2 days a week working for free, essentially for 4 hours on like a Tuesday, Thursday morning, then I better get some clients in the door. Otherwise, this is not really a good deal for me.
Yeah.
So by the end of summer, I had 110 clients and I was like, okay. And I was still working for the spa and I was
Mhm.
afraid to like leave that job because it was like my safety net.
Stability.
But
Yeah.
I asked them, I'm like, can I start to rent space instead of trading? And they weren't interested in that. So I found a local practitioner who had a 2-room space and there was one room available within her space. And I said, you know, I'm in need. Are you interested? And she said, sure. So I started renting one room in her space. And it was a really scary step for me because I was still working for the spa. And now I have this full-time space, which was expensive. But I knew it was a block from where the other office was. So my clients were very easily going to come see me. And I was really busy with work. And basically just any client that came up, I was just like, yep, I'll see you. Like, let's just do this. You know, 15-minute morning. Okay. Like I was just attached to my cell phone for years. And I just hustled and worked my ass off and made it work. And eventually I realized while I was working at the spa, if I hired my first employee, they could be seeing a client in my office while I was seeing a client at the spa. So now all of a sudden I was leveling up a little bit. So the days and times that I wasn't at my studio, I had hired someone else to be there. And that was phenomenal because now all of a sudden we could divide up the day between morning and afternoon. People think that you need some like big space to hire employees, but you don't. You just need one room. And if you divide your day in two, like a morning shift and an evening shift, that's 14 shifts in a week. And we know that massage therapists don't work more than 4 or 5 shifts. So all of a sudden that's like 3 employees or you and 2 employees. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's basically how I got started. And then from there, you know, and then
that is the Cliff's Notes. And I want to
Notes.
remind everyone, one, extremely intelligent. She manages time and money well. She didn't take out a big loan to get started. And then the 90% of it was a lot of work.
Yeah, it was a ton of work. And so also at the time, I was reading a lot of business books. And there was one that I really liked. Susie Orman is this, or Suze Orman, I don't pronounce it. She's this like financial person who usually talks about investing, which is of no importance to a 24-year-old because you're like, I have no money to invest. But she wrote this great book called Young, Fabulous, and Broke. And I was like, oh boy, like let's dig in. Let me read about a credit score. Let me read about, you know, how to restructure my debt. And it was interesting because she said, okay, if you want to start a business, here's the deal. However much money you're currently making at your current job, you are not allowed to spend more. You're not allowed to get into more debt than you could pay off within a year. And I thought, well, this is interesting because at the time I had been a cocktail waitress for a while. I was like a nanny. I walked dogs, like you name it. I've had a lot of retail jobs. It's New York City, you know.
Pay the bills.
I was working as a massage therapist and I realized I would be a little bit scared of a certain number, but under that, I could pay that off in a year. So that number for me happened to be about $12,000. I thought $1,000 a month, if let's say this business failed miserably, could I make it back in a year and pay off debt? So I'm allowed to get myself into $12,000 of debt. So what does that look like? So for me, it looked like maxing out a 0% interest Visa and MasterCard, which is great.
Uh-oh, credit cards.
0% interest for the first year. And you know what? I paid it off. I paid it off within a year and a half. So, you know, it was a risk, but it was a risk that was calculated because I knew if the business didn't work, I would be able to recover it. So
calculated.
Yeah.
Calculated risk.
Calculated. Yeah. And also what that meant for me was there was a suite down the hall that became available that I could build 3 rooms into. And I thought, well, this is interesting because I could take 1 room and rent 2 out to acupuncturists, which I did. And then I could have a couple more employees and let's see what that looks like. So that's what I did. I started with 1 room and then I moved into a suite that we built from the ground up. IKEA furniture and Craigslist furniture, and I painted the walls.
Craigslist.
Start it simple. Start it simple. Don't spend money on anything that's not going to make you money. Yeah. And then after a few years of doing that, we needed all 3 rooms. And then I took over a second suite in the building and built that out, and then a 3rd suite. So I didn't build 9 rooms all at once. I had no need for that. It happened over the course of about 8 years. And then 2 years ago, I opened up a second location with already 8 rooms in it. Well, we built 8 rooms in it. And then I think we're going to open next week the 3rd location, which I'm like way too excited about. I'm so stoked.
3rd location.
Yeah.
Now, it leads me to this.
Yeah.
How many therapists are now working? Are they employees, 1?
So they are, each business has, okay. My first business, Williamsburg, yes. My first business, Williamsburg, has all independent contractors and some employees.
Okay.
My second business, because I don't like dealing with New York State ever again, is all employees. And my third business will also be employees. Is it possible to use independent contractors? Absolutely. Will the state fight you tooth and nail for it? Yes.
Yeah.
I don't
Okay.
recommend it. I don't recommend
How
it
many?
simply because it is too big of a risk, and it's a real headache to deal with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
how many
100%.
therapists, let me change that then. How many therapists are you managing in some form, even if they're ICs?
So we don't manage ICs. That's the one rule of, right. It's a right. So I work with currently, there are, I believe, 20 contractors, and I want to say 20 or 25 therapists, and then 8 front desk, and now 1 COO, who is our chief operating officer, who
Now,
manages. Yes.
that complexity is something that I don't deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Do you like working with clients more, or do you like managing the business and massage therapists?
So it's a different animal, right? I'm
Totally different.
coming from a background of walking dogs and being a nanny. I can tell you that, and being a cocktail waitress, frankly, and a bartender, working with clients has its perks and has its downsides. Most of the time, our clients are wonderful. They're excited to see us. It's not much of a headache. I think the thing that I've learned over the years is really strong boundaries are 100% necessary. So if you manage their expectations of what we expect of them and what they can expect of us from the very beginning, including taking a credit card when we book an appointment, including a very strong cancellation policy, it starts to mitigate some of those stressful situations because everybody's clear in advance about what we expect. Where things go wrong is when clients have unreasonable expectations or are not entirely truthful about certain circumstances. Like, I arrived 2 minutes late. Why do we need to reschedule my appointment? It's like, well, maybe it was more like 35 minutes late into that conversation. And so in this case, it's really great to have wonderful front desk folks who are really great at dealing with stressful situations, and who know how to scale something up or escalate it if there's a problem. So, but the thing to remember is this isn't brain surgery. Nobody's dying. This is massage, right? So
Yeah.
at the end of the day, we take it very seriously, obviously, but we just want people to have a great experience. And I think for the most part, managing the employees and managing the customers is fairly straightforward. I think if you hire really great people and treat them like adults, they pretty much act like adults. So that's kind of my
Hire
management
really
strategy.
great people. Ooh, that's. I don't manage therapists. I manage like a support team for what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But the idea, even mentally, of like managing massage therapists is what has made me go more and more towards education and
Yeah.
less towards opening a brick and mortar.
Well, that might be a limiting belief, Robert. Like it might be a
Oh,
little
sure, it could
limiting
be.
because
It could
what
be.
I found is most the people who I work with tend to be really nurturing and lovely and just excited to get to work. I get a lot of hugs at work. They like want to be there. I think also because I'm paying well, and I do something that's a little bit unorthodox, which is I leave 30 minutes in between appointments. So most people, they are leaving like they're doing like a 50-minute massage with a 10-minute break. So you're back to back to back every hour on the hour. I worked at a spa like that. And I was exhausted. I was just like, there's no time to wash my hands and get something to eat and stretch, let alone show my client a stretch, let alone like take a moment. So
Yeah.
I think leaving that 30 minutes in between appointments has been really huge because the therapists feel relaxed. They're not rushed. They have time to stretch. They have time to get something to eat and change their table over in a more leisurely pace. And we know that clients come a few minutes early or like a few minutes late. And so to be able to have a little bit of leeway time, it's just the pace is a little calmer. It's calmer for the front desk to check folks in and out too. So maybe I'm not the best capitalist in that regard because we could have squeezed in 12 sessions instead of 8, but I prefer
Yeah.
my people to have longevity and like
Longevity.
appreciate
It's
their,
the thing is, as a short term, it's like how many can we squeeze in?
yeah.
But what's the actual quality of the session and what's the retention rate of both the client and the therapist?
Yeah,
It's a
we
good
want,
capitalist decision to deliver a better service that works better for the therapist.
exactly. We want sustainability. That's what works for me. So,
Yeah.
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 And it can be a limiting belief, but what I see is as an educator, I go in and teach something.
Yeah.
I'm teaching something that a lot of times I'll tell people isn't even massage, even though it falls under massage licensure. The
Yeah.
student in class will start to freak out and go, "When are you going to open a place?" And I realize about the 10th time I heard that it's because they want a job. And
Yeah.
it's like, ooh, you don't even have the business chops to like build your own private practice. And you
Hmm.
want me to, oh man, I got to have a space. I got to pay electricity. I got to clean it. I got to advertise. I got to hire front desk people. You got
Hmm.
to, oh, and then I got to make sure they get out of bed and make it to work on time.
So here's the thing. You have strong boundaries with them too, right? You say, here is my attendance policy for my employees. And we know that if we're late to work a certain amount of time in a certain period of time, that's that. We can't continue our relationship. And so I find you find out real quickly if someone is going to be, working out in that way or not. And
Yeah.
for the most part, people are excited to work and want to work. I imagine with school, you don't really get to choose your students, but when you hire employees, you get to choose your employees. And so if our process for hiring, a lot of it has to do with we speak to their referrals, references. We speak to their references. I will do a phone call with them where we'll go over a health intake form, and I'll talk to them about, okay, so let's say I check off that I have nerve pain. What questions would you want to ask? Or let's say I'm coming in with a headache first thing in the morning, and maybe I'm clenching my teeth in my sleep. What does the treatment plan look like for that? So it's definitely a more clinical approach. And what I find is that people who got really good grades in school, who paid attention, they'll know immediately the answers to the questions I'm asking them. Even something so simple as a seasoned therapist knows if a client has checked off that they have nerve pain, they ask, okay, so tell me about the quality of your pain. Where are you feeling this? Was this diagnosed by a doctor? Because 9 times out of 10, clients check off that they have nerve pain and it's just levator scapula or something.
Yep.
So, I think by going through the process of the health intake form before we even meet each other, that's very, very helpful. And then obviously getting the 1 hour, which this is controversial, but I like to do a full hour of an interview time because I feel like, and to that point, if I know that I'm not going to hire someone within the first 5 or 10 minutes, I'll stop the interview because it's a waste of my time. It's a waste of their time. But during the interview, if I notice at any point, maybe there's something they're doing on the leg that could be improved, or there's something that I wouldn't put my clients in front of someone, my paying clients, in front of someone that I haven't experienced their work. I think that's unethical to charge $120 an hour for someone's work you've never even had or only had a part of. So I am certain without a doubt that my clients are going to love my work or my therapist's work because I know that I love their work and I'm a big fan. I'm pretty fanatic about it. So, yeah, I think that's extremely important. Yeah.
Lots of layers. I work in continuing education. I see a wide swath of massage therapists from Texas to other states I travel in.
Mm-hmm.
And every class I teach, I'm like, what are these people doing? I have no idea what is going on. I come in with a mat and they're like, what?
That's so
What do you
funny.
mean? What do you mean you always see people on a mat? And I'm like, I'm busy. It's fine. Sometimes too, I think I have a strong focus, which goes back to the conversation we had on the Massage Entrepreneurs Group about minimizing at least debt.
Mm-hmm.
And it just made me nervous because there are a lot of therapists with not nearly your business prowess who I'm afraid they're going to go into debt, not even with a 0% interest on a credit card. They're just going to go into debt because they think they can pay it back. And I don't want them to jeopardize their financial future because of it. I've told people when they say, when are you going to open a brick and mortar? I'll say, when I have $100,000 free and clear.
Mm. I mean,
Now I have some cushion. Yeah.
yeah, you and I know we think a little bit differently about this. I feel like a lot of it depends. So remember, I didn't just jump into a private practice full time, having no other job. I continued to work another job while I was employing other people. In fact, that's how tightly I was clinging to like safety net. And I also had a backup plan, which was I knew that if for some reason my business crashed and burned and failed miserably, that the rooms that I had built, those 3 little rooms, I could easily rent each of them for a certain amount of money. And no matter what, free and clear, at the very least take care of my debt and actually make a small amount of profit. And there were definitely times where I was like, it would actually be more profitable for me to rent out these rooms and not have to deal with anyone else. But you know, I like got through the slower times, and I learned that there's a seasonality to the business, and that you have to, you know, when you're busy, you have to work. When it's quiet, you have to go on vacation. So for us, that's summer. September through December, January, February, we're slammed busy. April, May, June, July starts to people go out of town. So, you know,
Yeah.
riding the wave of every year, knowing what that looks like, and then responding accordingly is really important. But in terms of debt, there's a few things that I've learned from owning a business. The first is that the bank does not give a shit. Sorry to be. The bank does not. They don't care. They don't want to extend a line of credit. They're not that interested in loaning you. And the folks who are interested in loaning you money, it's usually at a very predatory interest rate. So like worse than a credit card. So it's not worth it. I don't recommend taking on debt that has a bad interest rate, or, you know, it's not worth it. So what are we to do if we don't have a good interest rate? There's a couple of options. You could take on a 0% interest credit card and then aggressively pay it back. And I would say keep that under 5,000 if you can. You could, you know, think about what you're currently doing that would generate more income. So like raise your prices once in a while. I recommend doing that on the regular.
Oh, controversy. Raising rates.
So the thing about raising your rates is, in order to keep up with the economy and your increase in rent and to provide better services, you need to be able to raise your rates now and again. And people get all scared, like, oh no, what if I raise my rates $5 or $10 and my clients don't come back? Well, that leaves room for clients who will come, who will pay that higher rate. The thing that I like to do when I need to raise my rates is a month before, I will let people know by email and by a little sign on the desk, hey guys, next month on the 1st, our rates are increasing by $10. If you would like to lock in your current rate, we encourage you to pre-purchase as many sessions at the current rate as you'd like. You want to buy a bunch of 10 packs? Be my guest. You want to buy 100 sessions at the current rate? Cool. We'll always honor them. Buy as many gift cards as you want. Do what you got to do. We'll always honor them. This way, you don't have to like grandfather people into an old rate forever, which makes no sense, by the way, because there's inconsistency there. And when you start that new month, you have, number one, a big influx of cash because a bunch of people bought, you know, prepaid for their sessions. And number two, you're charging every single person the exact same thing. And if they already had sessions remaining, you honor them. And anyone new from here on out is that increased rate. And oftentimes increasing your rates, even $5 or $10, you know, if you're concerned that that's going to dissuade people from coming, what you find is actually the inverse is true. It's like it went on sale. People think, oh, it's more expensive, it must be really good. And the other thing is, if people are already paying over $100 for a session, they don't give a shit about $5 or $10 difference. It does not make a difference. They just don't care. It's not nearly as big of a deal as you thought. So the first time I raised my rates, I cried my eyes out. It was like $80 to $85. I was like, oh my God, this is so stressful. What if I lose all my clients? What if people don't come back? And I saw such a huge increase in the amount of customers I was seeing, and then an increase in my bank account.
I want to go back. You raised your rates and you saw an increase in the number of customers.
Oh yeah,
Why?
slammed.
Why?
I think you would think I was running a sale. It's because when you charge more, people think it must be better.
Yep.
I have no idea why that is. It's a psychological.
Yeah, it's counterintuitive. You think initially, I think when you get out of school, that if I give them a discount, I'll have more clients. They're getting more for their money. Mm-hmm. But that's not how their perception works.
It's simply not true. The other thing that I think is important to know is I've never run a Groupon or a Living Social or anything that's a big discount because I really want clients who value my services. That's very important to me. So although I will do like $20 off the month of your birthday maybe, or I'll do $20 off your first session, new clients only, and that's very specific. That's usually when I open a new location just to like get the ball rolling. I don't offer regular discounts because and I don't offer deep discounts because it's very, very important to me that our clients are valuing what we do and who we are. And that said, also, I'm hearing a lot from people I'm hiring that they'll work for a company that does a discount and takes it out of their pocket. And I'm like, what do you mean your rate changes when they run a discount or a Groupon? That's completely unethical. That's totally unacceptable. If your therapist has a rate, I don't care if they're an employer or contractor, their rate is their rate and that doesn't change. So to change their rate just because your business decided to run a special, not cool. So I feel really strongly about this one. It's a big pet peeve of mine. And it's something that I pledge to my clients that, or my therapists, that I will never change your rate. Your rate stays the same. The only time your rate changes is every year it gets an increase. You know,
Yeah.
so that's nice. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, the other thing I wanted to say, there's a great book that was extremely helpful for me. There's a few great books. The first that I encourage everyone to read is called The E Myth. It's the entrepreneurial myth. And it's basically about, just because you can cut hair doesn't mean you can run a salon, right? Just because you can do massage doesn't mean you can run a studio. It's why most small businesses fail in their first year and what you can do about it. And I love that book. It was extremely helpful for me. The second book that I read was Book Yourself Solid by Michael Port.
Read that one.
Guy.
Yeah.
It's massively important. It's if you don't like marketing and you're shy, which I was both of those things, it was extremely
Do not get
helpful.
shy. Maybe that's changed for you. I don't get shy
Massively.
from your form of communication at all.
I have to say I was massively introverted for many, many years. It was hard for me to talk to anybody. And I realized when I started my business, you have to talk to strangers literally all day, every day about what you do, or you're not going to get anywhere. So one of the things that I did with my private practice that kind of mentally tricked me out of it was I pretended that it was a much bigger business. So I would say, like, we are a team of licensed massage therapists. It probably still says that on my website. It was just me. It was me by myself answering the phone, cleaning, doing the laundry, like doing literally everything. But I felt like if I gave it a name and I branded it as this company, I could be like, Massage Williamsburg is awesome, which is a little bit different than saying, I am awesome. You know, and especially if you're a little bit shy in the beginning about doing it, I think it helps to brand it separately to promote it. Yeah.
Yeah. People will occasionally find my website. Somebody just moved to town recently, and my website is Robert Gardner Wellness. It's very clear that it's me because I don't have other people working.
Yeah.
And this therapist contacted me because they wanted a job. Are you hiring?
I mean,
and it's because all the stuff around it is good. So yeah, it takes time. There's a lot of elements that go into having a practice and scaling. The other thing is I'm scaling in a different direction, and I'm so in the middle of this that I don't know yet if I'm going to come back around to the brick and mortar model. I don't know yet.
Yeah. I mean, it's not for everybody, certainly. It's, you know, the way that I used to think about it, like, it's like having a baby, like you have to watch it all the time. And someone said to me a little while ago, they're like, you know, it's more like having a pet. You can put it away for a few days. Someone else can watch it. It's going to be okay. You can like go out of the house and come back. It's not a baby. It's more like a pet. Don't treat it like a baby. You have to have your own boundaries. And so for me, because I tend towards being kind of an anxious person, it's been really great to have a little bit of perspective. And honestly, the thing that I learned the most about hiring other people, the bigger that your company gets, the more help that you have, actually, because you're able to delegate things to other folks. So for example, I can't do everything. I realized about a year ago, I was trying to do 8 people's jobs, like HR, PR, marketing, email stuff, a newsletter, more or less, blogging, the social media, like Facebook, Instagram, also the bookkeeping, also just like overall management of everybody. And I felt like I was just spread too thin. I was burning out, and I felt like I was failing constantly because I was trying to do like 8 people's jobs. So what I realized is between the front desk folks, I could start to very slowly delegate some of those things, or even when I was hiring new folks, hire for those things. I see Kaylin is watching right now. Hi, Kaylin. She's our amazing, amazing PR and front desk, and we love her to death. So thank you so much. And so, you know, when I started to delegate that stuff, I could breathe a little because I was like, okay, these were accomplishing a whole lot more than I could if I were trying to do it all entirely by myself. So that was a huge thing. And for me also, I realized I was very afraid of opening up any more locations because I was extremely overwhelmed with 2. And I needed to hire a full-time employee to help just with management. So I found a woman whose experience was scaling a restaurant from 2 locations to 12 locations. Before that, she had worked in HR. Before that, she managed a tech company. And before that, she was a massage therapist. So she was like perfect. Yeah, so her name's Lucy, and I brought her on about 9 months ago. And having her do the work of the operations side has allowed me to do the work of scaling, getting new business going, business development, and then doing the things that I'm really good at, which is identifying a market and then growing into it. So that's
Yeah.
been hugely important, massively important to have help.
Delegate the things that you either aren't good at or
Yeah.
don't enjoy.
There's a great quote. It's build on your strengths, hire for your weaknesses. And I
Yeah.
believe in that massively.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're excited.
I think you should consider hiring other folks.
Oh, you want me to be as stressed as you are.
Do I look stressed? Yeah, I'm a little stressed.
Oh, well,
but honestly, it's a joy though. I mean, it's when I'm celebrating my success, I'm doing it with a full team of people who are also celebrating, you know?
Yeah. When you talked about a limiting belief, I go, do I have, and I'm like, yeah, sure. Okay. I have a limiting belief. The idea in my head currently, when I say I'm going to manage massage therapists, I'm like, oh my, no.
Well, think about it like this.
Yeah.
God forbid, stuff happens, right? God forbid you break something or get real sick or has a family member who does, or you want to take a vacation. The idea is that shouldn't stop you from having a livelihood, right? Like if I get really, really sick, I don't want to worry about how am I going to pay my bills. If I need to take a week off, I don't want to worry that I can't come back and pay my rent. So this is something I learned just to like give you some insight into my crazy brain. My first vacation I ever took, I closed my business because I didn't know how else to do it. And while I was on the beach in Mexico, I read the 4-Hour Work Week because I can't turn my brain off from working. And I was like, oh, let's read a bunch of business books while I'm sitting here on the beach on vacation. But one of the things that the 4-Hour Work Week talks about, that's Tim Ferriss, love that guy. He said exactly what I'm saying, which is basically if you get sick, if you're not able to work, having passive income is massively, massively important. And so I think about this a lot of I want to be at brunch with my friends. I want to be at home with my family and earning income. That's pretty freaking cool. And yes, it's a lot of work. And yes, you have to think about your business and you can't just walk away from it and then stop thinking about it. You are thinking about it day and night. But the peace of mind that comes from knowing that if I needed to take a little bit of time and help a sick parent or a sibling with a new baby, I can go down and do that, you know, and that I don't have to worry about paying my rent, that there's still income coming in. And I think that people are afraid of hiring others too, because they're like, well, what if I bring someone on and then they're competition? And, or, you know, what if they run away with all my clients? Or what if they, you know, clients like them better? And the thing is, actually, it's great if clients like them better. It's really pulling teeth to get your clients to stop seeing you and start seeing someone else, but it is possible. It's not that hard to transition some folks over. And what you find is that you can only do a certain amount of sessions in a week. But if you hire other people, you know, let's say you're working 3 mornings a week during the times you want to be working, and then the rest of the week, someone else is using your space and they're seeing clients. Like that's a win-win because now you're earning passive income during the times that you're not available. And you start to limit your availability from 5 days a week to 4 to 3 to maybe I just feel like working Tuesday, Thursday mornings, and then the rest of the week managing. And that's okay. Yeah.
The other thing that you talked about that I'd like to make note of is it sounded to me, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, it sounded like it was almost like you had an extra room and you got one employee.
Yeah, so it's not.
And you graduated.
I didn't even have an extra room. Like initially I had one treatment room and then I was working at the spa. And while I was at the spa between my appointments, I was literally booking them appointments. So like if Tuesday, Thursday I worked at the spa, they were in the room when I wasn't. And then eventually we split up the day morning to night. So she would take the morning and I would take the evening. So she would see 4 clients from 10 to 4 and I would see 4 clients from 4 to 10. And then when I did move into a space that was 3 rooms, the first thing I did was rent one out full time to an acupuncturist who I loved. So I didn't have to worry about the burden of that room. And then we had 2 other rooms to use, which if you remember my morning to evening split, that's 28 shifts because it's 7 days a week, 7 shifts in the morning, 7 shifts in the evening. So now all of a sudden that opens you up to, boy, I'm bad at math, but like, you know, quite a few therapists.
Yeah.
I also,
the incremental build
Yeah.
I think a lot of therapists go from they think it's private practice to a year-long lease and hiring 10 therapists. And I'm like, no, no, no,
No.
no. Just try to graduate to that is what I was trying to point out.
Yeah, you can hire employees working out of one room. I encourage you to, because until you're booked solid 7 days a week, you don't need to have 2 rooms. You don't need to have 3 rooms. The other thing I would say, what was I going to say? It builds slowly, and there's no rush. There's no big expense. Like you don't need to have so many people so soon. Oh, the other thing that drives me crazy is when people close their office at like 6 p.m. And I'm like, guys, everyone's out of work at 5, like, or 6. The busiest times for us are always 7, 8 o'clock, even 9
Yep.
o'clock. And especially weekends. Like, if you're going to be closed one day a week, don't make it a Saturday or Sunday. Those are the busiest
Yep.
days of the week. You want to increase your customers, be open on Saturday and Sunday. Like, close on a Monday or a Tuesday if you really need to close. But having that is extremely important. Having that weekend and evening hours. Let's say you don't want to work nights and weekends, then hire other people to work nights and
Yep.
weekends. Hire them
Yep.
to work the days that you're not working. It's not going to hurt you any.
One of the things I like about private practice, and one of the things I like about what you're doing, where you're really choosing where you want to go with your business, is you get a chance to find out what you like and see if you can craft that in a way that really fits what you want to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Well, also, so I decided early on I didn't want a spa. Like I don't do wraps or scrubs. Like I wanted a clinical practice. So I specifically decided I want a clinical massage practice, but in a very warm setting. So no paper sheets, no like bright lights. I want good music. I want to work barefoot because I like it.
Good
And
music. I know that's debatable. What's good?
right? So I don't like Indian flute music. I don't like hearing waterfalls. It makes me
I'm
have to
with you.
pee. I don't like chirping birds. I just
Yeah.
want like really. I want to listen to like Mazzy Star. So I have a Spotify playlist called Hipster Massage Mix for Massage Williamsburg, and our clients really like it. Our therapists really like it. We're at like 600 songs now or something crazy. And I like Spotify because you can shuffle.
Yeah. Looks like it dropped her for just a second. I'm going to see if she's going to invite herself back on or if the connection just dropped. But so far, it's a really entertaining, enlightening discussion to go back and forth about the differences between being in private practice and then managing therapists and what goes into scaling this out. It's very different than what I'm doing in private practice and then building education, just a completely different business model. If you guys have questions, you can write down below. We'll try to answer as we can. Also, if we don't get a chance to answer on camera, it's just because we're busy talking. We should be able to answer those later.
Hey, sorry about that.
Oh, no problem at all.
I just had a phone call. Whoops. And I tried to push the cancel, but didn't
Oh,
work.
yeah, no, that happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
So continue what you were saying.
Oh gosh. I don't. What was I saying?
You were talking about a clinical practice. You had
Oh
talked
yes,
about the
I
Spotify
did want.
list.
Yeah, I wanted a clinical practice, but in a very warm setting. And so I do think it's important when you start your business to make it what you want, to remedy the things you don't like working about, the things you don't like working for other people about. You want to remedy. So the 50-minute hour didn't do it for me. I wanted to do a 60-minute hour with breaks in between, or things like good music or wearing what's comfortable. When you're working for yourself, it gives you the opportunity to do that. So it's very
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
So, what time is it right now? Do you know?
Nope.
I don't know how much time we've passed. So,
I have no
No?
idea what time it is.
Okay.
This
You're
is
not in a
this
rush
is
to
a
get out of
really
here
fun
then?
conversation. Yeah.
You're
No,
not?
no, I'm not.
Okay, I'm just
Let's
making
see.
sure time-wise.
Yeah,
Um,
I can't tell.
I'm trying to think if there's anything in particular. Like, what do you think massage therapists who just got out of school, they're just starting, they want to build their private practice first, but they kind of
Mhm.
want to go the direction you're going. What advice do you have for them?
Absolutely. So, if you are right out of school and you want to build a private practice, the first thing to do is work for other people. And here's why. If you are getting your hands on as many clients as you can, this is great because you're learning on their dime. You're getting comfortable in your practice. You are getting your hands on skills, and you're seeing what works in their business and what doesn't. So, what's cool when you're working for other people is you get to kind of spy on their practice and see, okay, well, here's how they do this thing, or here's how they tackle this issue, or here's the credit card processor they use, or here's why they decided to do this thing or that thing. So, it's really helpful to have some experience working for other folks first. Hi, Cookie. What
Yeah,
kind of
kids
dog
being
we?
home, so.
Oh. And then when you're ready to start taking on clients, see friends of friends, work out of your house, bring your
Yep.
table to theirs, see what works, see what doesn't work. That there's no rush to jump into just doing it right out of school. I certainly didn't. I worked for a spa, a chiropractor, a wellness center, a yoga studio. And there were things that I loved about working for some of those businesses, and there were things that I didn't love. So for me, I love the chiropractor because it's really intense, site-specific clinical work. Although I didn't like the paper sheets and the cold clinical vibe. And I love the spa; it was beautiful. But I also kind of felt like a bystander at the spa because I kept asking them to use products that didn't have chemicals in them, and they were really not willing to listen to that. And so that wasn't working for me. And they also did like that 50-minute hour with the back to back, and I hated the pace of it. And I loved working for the yoga studio. I felt like that was really my vibe, but sometimes it was loud in there, and sometimes it was a little bit dirty or disorganized, which are big no-nos for me. I like a very clean, well-run, organized, place.
Yeah.
So I really just realized I'm glad I worked for those places because I learned a lot, but I also figured out the things that I wanted to remedy about working for others
Yep.
and change
You
it for myself.
learned what you did like and you
Yeah.
learned what you didn't like. You were able to use the good stuff and then morph it into what you were looking for specifically.
Exactly, exactly. And I learned what I can tolerate and what I can't tolerate. And also, I think it's massively important to work for others because if you're going to hire other people eventually, you want to keep in mind what it's like to be in the vulnerable position of an employee because you don't want to lose touch with just how much trust and faith they put in you. And you want to be appreciative and mindful of making sure that you're not exploiting people or wasting their time. And that's massively, massively important. I felt often as an employee that I was being exploited, that my time wasn't valuable, that my opinions weren't valuable. And so when I created my own practice and started hiring other folks, I wanted to make sure that they never felt that way, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. There's so much, I've had so much history like you working in various environments, facilities from chiropractors' offices to spas. All of that factors into when I think about brick and mortar, how I would do things differently. And dealing with what I think of as employees, not in contractors, dealing with employees, there's just a piece of that in management and managing other people that I have a big apprehension to.
Well, I think the way that you're thinking about it is, what if I hire these people and they're terrible and they suck and they're making my life miserable, right? But if that's true, you let them go, right? So, what if just imagine,
My
what if you
version
hired
of
them
my
and
version of training and then getting
yeah.
a job with me is going through Hell Week that the Navy SEALs do, and whoever survives gets a job. Like I am not like what I'm doing doesn't even look like massage. The sessions are 3 hours long. We can't even
Well,
sell it as massage. And to put therapists through the training, they're like, oh, it's a lot of time. It's like, yes, mastery takes time. Oh, looks like it dropped her again. She probably got another phone call. And again, if you guys have questions, feel free to write those. If we don't approve them or address them right now, we'll try to address those in text after the broadcast. Keep approving the request and it's not going through for some reason. Can you try disconnecting and reconnecting, Rachel? For some reason, even that I tried every time, it just kept saying that there was no response from the live guest.
All right. Sorry about that.
Oh, no problem.
Got to tell people to stop calling me. Every time I get a call, it just drops it. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's just something about the way it's connected. Usually you can put your phone on silent and it'll block it out, but I've had to play with it several times, and even as many times as I've done this, I still have to, like, people drop or have to reconnect. So.
All right. It should be fixed now. Yeah.
So yeah, like the people who work for me, they have to survive.
Yeah, as long as you're paying them for the training. I mean, I think the thing is hire folks that you would want to work with, you know, that you feel comfortable with. And what's great about that, once you train them on your method too, is that you guys can trade. How cool is that?
Sure.
Yeah.
So it looks like Laura had a question, and it was about, let's see, what percentage of the session does an employee's therapist compensation make up in your model? And are you paying employees for their 30-minute downtime?
Hey, Laura, how's it going? So at most spas, they would say, or, you know, in this business model, they would say it should be about a third. So for me, it depends on the therapist. I like to start at about a third of what we charge. And it's not a percentage, right? Because if you decide that you're going to do a discount, that percentage would shrink, which makes no sense. So I highly, highly suggest not paying people a percentage, because if your company decides to run a special, the therapist rate shouldn't be affected. So I'll just, you know, get that out of the way. So when we run a $20 discount, that doesn't affect the therapist pay. And then what I like to do differently that most places don't is that rate is increased every year. So for example, if a therapist starts out making $40 an hour and we're charging $120, and then they're getting gratuity on top of that, so it's more like $60 an hour. By year 2, they might make 45. By year 3, they might make 50 or 55 or 60. Now, to keep up with all of these increases of rates, because I have therapists who are earning $70 an hour, which is great, plus gratuity, which is more like 90. To keep up with this increase, it is very important that you stay on top of increasing your rates every year as well, or if not every year, every other year. And I have a healthy balance of therapists who've been with me for many, many, many years, and then some folks who are new. The other thing that I do if I decide to increase a rate is I do it based off of retention. So at this moment, we're using MindBody Online, which gives really good reporting. It's not my favorite, if I'm honest, scheduling software, but it gives really good reports. So we can see how many times did a client come back within a 90-day period, how many clients came back to see that therapist. And if their rate is average or above average, then we want to give them an increase every year because we want to encourage loyalty. If someone is earning $70 an hour plus gratuity working with me, they're not going to move over to some other company. The other thing that I do a little bit differently is with my employees, I allow them to rent rooms from me at $20 an hour. So let's say that they have a client that is their family member or their friend outside of the studio, and they want to bring them in. They can charge them $140, $150. I don't care what they're charging them. They're just paying me $20 an hour to use the room. So it's very important to me. I like to encourage entrepreneurship. I want to encourage my therapists to start their own private practices so that, you know, the most important thing is that those rooms are booked. I don't care whether they're booked with a $20, you know, rental or if they're booked with an $80 client. As long as there are people using the rooms, I'm trying to operate from an abundance mindset, not a place of
Yeah.
scarcity. So I think when you encourage people, you know, you can make a solid living working with me, absolutely. But I think to really thrive in this space and to have a lot of abundance, I try to encourage people to also see their private practice, private clients, just, you know, to make extra money. If their goal is to make $100,000 a year, which some of my therapists do, then they have a healthy balance of some working for me and some seeing their own clients, whether that's in my office or outside of my office. You know, and you might think, well, that's kind of competitive, but at the end of the day, there's an abundance of clients for everybody, and you have to
Yeah.
operate from that mindset if you're going to do any of this.
The competition component, I don't know how it works in other businesses, but I run into it again and again, even though I'm generally more on your abundance track.
Yeah.
I get very confused about, I deal with a lot of massage schools, a lot of massage facilities, a lot of independent massage therapists, and when the notions of competition come up in the marketplace, I realize that I'm just not operating from their same mentality. They're very concerned about, like, they're educators. They're like, man, if you teach people what you do, like, how are you
Well,
going to have
that's a
clients?
disservice. That's a disservice.
Your students will steal all your clients, and it's like, no, 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 no,
Yeah.
no. The bulk of the massage marketplace, I don't know what it's like in New York, but here in Austin, I mean, does 10% of the population get a massage with any regularity?
I mean, no, not at all. There's so
Yeah.
many clients out there. And the other thing is, I think it's important to recognize what makes you unique and what makes your services unique. And so I think the way that I always tell people to think about this is if you stopped offering your services tomorrow, what would people miss the most about working with you? And usually that's the heart of the thing that makes you different from others. So just like if your very favorite restaurant closed tomorrow, maybe you would miss your favorite dish or the way that the waiter always knows your name or the ambiance or the convenience or a combination of those things. So with your own business, if you stopped offering your massages tomorrow, what would clients miss the most about working with you? And that's the thing that you want to push forward in your marketing and make sure that that's coming across on your website and your social media and your presence, that they wouldn't be able to get this unique thing if you stopped working. And I think that's a very important differentiator between you and what other people are doing. And also, I think it's just important to consider what your background is, because nobody is going to be as unique as you because of your specific history. Like for me, I had scoliosis growing up. From the time I was like 11, it was diagnosed in school, and I had a lot of back pain. And so I know what it's like to deal with that on a day-to-day basis. So I found that a lot of my clients that I love working with have really complicated scoliosis because I love like the intricacy of how the muscles have kind of rearranged themselves to kind of suit the bones, and I really understand pain in a deep way, you know. And for someone else who's a therapist, maybe they had a parent with cancer, or maybe they had a sibling with diabetes, or they themselves have some kind of physical ailment or issue that makes them uniquely qualified to deal with clients who are also going through that. So I really want to encourage people to not to take a big corporate look at, you know, what you're doing, but to make it feel more real by being your authentic self. I'm just gonna close
Yeah.
this little. Yeah.
The authenticity component. I deal with a lot of therapists in private practice, and when it comes to social media and video production, which I'm a very strong proponent of, it's that I think because our jobs are, when we deal with clients specifically, they're so deeply intimate. Having people able to see your face, hear your voice, connect with you in a video medium, even if they just see 4 or 5 videos before they finally call to, you know, make an appointment or schedule online, we're already creating some intimacy using video.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great way to get your message across too. And video is very popular and it's very shareable on social media. And it's something that I would say I really admire about you and that I need to do more of, because I think this is my very first live video
You are.
ever.
You're doing it now.
I'm learning. I'm learning. This is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just, you know, for the technology has changed so much. When I first started seeing Facebook Lives like this come up, maybe a year and a half ago, I didn't really see, like, as much as I knew about social media, it continues to morph in so many ways that I couldn't foresee what was going to happen, where we press a button on a phone. I don't have to code anything. I don't have to program. It disconnects. Okay, reconnect, whatever.
Yeah, pretty cool.
So, is there other information, other specific stuff that you think massage therapists need to know? You have such a wealth of information. It's really, really valuable for therapists to be able to see people of your caliber giving, business information to help them. So, do you have any other advice? Like, you have a struggling therapist, that therapist who's crying. What
Yeah.
advice do you have
So,
for them?
I mean, I think the most important thing is getting your head in the right space. So if you're freaking out about something, you don't have access to the resources of the rest of your mind. So I find if you're going to ask yourself, like, why is this happening to me? Why is this terrible thing happening? Maybe ask yourself, why is this happening for me? Or what's great about this? Or what else could this mean? Because sometimes you think that this terrible thing is happening to you, but really it's the universe on your side calling you to grow, which sounds a little woo-woo, but at the end of the day, the point is to be in a good headspace so that you have access to the resources of the rest of your mind. Because if you're not in a good headspace, it's easy to kind of go down that spiral of anxiety and, freak out and make poor choices. If you're scared, you're going to make the choice of deeply discounting something instead of operating from a place of abundance and choosing to do a different marketing idea or, think outside of the box. So I think keeping your head in a really good space is really, really important. And the best way that I know to do that is sleep really well, eat really well, work out, take care of yourself, ask for help when you need help. Don't be afraid of that. That was a hard one for me because it's vulnerable to ask for help. But don't be afraid to ask questions and put yourself out there. And yeah, I think that's advice that I've got. Yeah.
It's good. It's good advice. Like I said, it's really good for people to get a variety of perspectives, and that was one of the reasons I wanted to talk with you from the brief conversation we'd had about your practice. So let me ask you this: what are like you have three kind of locations now?
Yeah, so Williamsburg is in Brooklyn on North 6th
Brooklyn.
and
Okay.
Wythe, and then that's Massage Williamsburg. And then 15-minute walk north of there is Massage Greenpoint on Greenpoint Avenue between Franklin and West. And
Mhm.
then in the other direction, further down the East River, we've got Massage Outpost, which is going to be 8 treatment rooms. And it should open, I want to say next week. Hopefully, knock on all the wood. Um, but it should open next week, I think.
Good.
So we will see. Yeah.
What are your long-term goals? You have three because the third's
Yes.
about to open.
So
What do you envision?
a total side project that I do is my consulting business. So I found that when I got out of school, a lot of my classmates were like, how the hell are you doing any of this? And I would sit down and take them to lunch or coffee and just talk to them and give them advice about what's been working for me and what hasn't. And now I never went to business school. I went to massage school. Before that, I went to art school. So like, I'm not really qualified to run a business. And that's the thing, actually, is that like, it's not about being qualified or going to business school. It's just about wanting it and then doing it. So I think, you know, part of my side project has been helping others to start and grow practices. And eventually I realized I have to start talking the talk and walking the walk because, or whatever that expression is, because I was spending a lot of time helping others and I needed to start charging for it. So I
Yeah.
started charging for my services as a business consultant. I put up a website, which is wellnessbusinessconsulting.com. And I suddenly got an influx of a lot of consulting clients who are massage therapists, physical therapists, acupuncturists. I have estheticians, someone who does eyebrows and eyelashes, psychotherapists. So that's been really fascinating to help other people grow their businesses. And
Different viewpoint on your
yeah,
business.
it's
Yeah.
fascinating because the principles are the same for any
Yeah.
service business. And so you're asking me, what are my long-term goals? What I would like to do is use my current business as a test case scenario for what's possible. So get to 5 locations, maybe see what that looks like, and take the money that I'm making and invest it in my consulting clients. So with my consulting clients, for example, I have an acupuncturist in California who is kicking so much ass. I see she's doing the homework every week. She's expanding her practice. She's hiring employees. She raised her rates. She's doing every single thing I'm guiding her to do. And she's making a lot more money now, which I'm like, this is great. But she's starting to run into the issue that I ran into, which is that banks don't like to lend to small businesses. So what I would like to do eventually is to invest in my consulting clients' practices and give them a non-predatory rate and say, okay, you want to open up your next location, here's a chunk of money, I want to own a percentage of your business. So I want to spend my 40s passively investing in my consulting clients, and in businesses that I care about.
Yeah, I love talking to business owners when they get to this point of like longer term and they say the word invest. I want to invest in, we had a conversation, I think, I don't think it was Massage Entrepreneurs, it might have been somewhere else. And someone was like, what are your plans for retirement? And therapists were like, I'm going to work till I'm dead. And I go, I mean, I want to work when I want to work, but I said, my long-term goal is just to manage investments. Like,
yeah. Well, the thing is, I love watching business grow. The way that people play fantasy football, I play like fantasy start a company. I think it's the most fun thing ever. Don't tell people this, but I would do it for free. That's how much I love it. I'm glad I'm not doing it for free. Girls got to pay the rent. But it's been really helpful for me because while I'm growing my massage businesses and getting into debt, building out new spaces, it's been really great to be able to have that passive income. It's not passive income. It's pretty active because I'm involved in their day-to-day. But to see consulting clients and really watch their business develop and grow has been really fun. That's been like a really, really good time. The other thing I wanted to point out on the debt side, which was super helpful for me in subsidizing some of my larger debt, there is a company that everybody should look into called kiva.org, KIVA.org. And what they do is provide 0% interest loans, 0% interest loans to people in business all over the world. And they do this through crowd lending. Now, it's not like Kickstarter or Indiegogo where you're asking for donations. This isn't a donation. It's actually, it's a loan. So if someone lends you $25, you're going to pay that $25 back. So for me, I was able to get a 0% interest loan of $10,000 paid out over 36 months. And so that comes to, I think it's like $270 a month or something like that. And for anyone who owns a small business, I would highly encourage them towards applying for a Kiva loan because it doesn't cost anything. It's very straightforward. They deposit the money in your account and then you pay it back every month. It's like automatically withdrawn from your account. And so if someone is looking for a very small loan under $10,000, a micro loan it's called, to maybe you need to buy a new table or a new piece of equipment, or you're ready to open up that treatment room, I highly encourage you towards the Kiva Foundation because it's a 0% interest loan, so you can't lose. You have to pay it back every month, but it's so reasonable. And you can't beat 0% interest. You just can't beat it. So I really encourage all of my clients towards that.
Cool. So if people want to find out information about, one, your consulting business, and then two, your locations in New York, where would they get information about that?
Online. So my consulting business is www.wellnessbusinessconsulting.com. And if they want to find out info about my massage studios, it's massagewilliamsburg.com or massagegreenpoint.com or massageoutpost.com, and that's in Dumbo. Dumbo stands for Down Under Manhattan Bridge Overpass.
Okay.
It's the acronym for that part of Brooklyn.
Your social media profile is pretty active: Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, anything like that?
Yes. So for Instagram, my business Instagram is @MassageBrooklyn. My personal one is my name. And on Facebook, we're @Massage Williamsburg. Yeah.
Nice. I'll have to make sure to follow you when this is over. Would you be willing in the future to maybe do another one of these?
I would love to. It was so lovely meeting you.
Yeah, it was really, really great. Like getting to chat with you because other than in text, this was the first time we've actually had a chance to talk, if I remember correctly. Because I don't think we even had a phone call before this, right?
No, not yet. And I love your videos and I love your work. So I was really excited when you asked me. I was like, woo, this is going to be great.
Oh, yeah. No, and it's great to promote people who are, thriving and have great information. different like unique perspectives to provide. I think also I was even daunted because you're in New York, thinking about like real estate value and what rental costs. It's like, whew, yeah.
Yeah, it's not cheap. It's not cheap over here, but you know, that's also part of the reason we have to charge as much as we do, because our rent is really, really expensive and it goes up every year. But
Yeah.
Austin's not the cheapest place either, from what I've heard.
No, it's not, but it's not Seattle and it's not New York. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I've never been to Austin. I want to come visit.
It's a great town. I recommend maybe not coming in the middle of the summer. It is ferociously hot. It is
Yeah.
just so hot here in summer. That's the only thing.
Oh. Cool. Thank you so much for having me. This was a great conversation.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and when I get off the broadcast here in a bit, I'll go ahead and chat with you on Messenger for just a little. But otherwise, thank you so much for participating with me today, and I really appreciate your time giving people some valuable information.
Thank you so much for having me. All right.
Cool. I'll talk to you soon.
All right.